of unboxing my new Bernina 325. I am just going to go over some of the basic features. This is the base model that Bernina offers. And again, I said in part one, this is a replacement of my old Bernina, which was like a Virtuoso 163 from 20 years ago. So let's just go over some of the basic features. Sorry, I almost lost my phone there. So here she is, all unboxed and ready to go. She doesn't have a lot of buttons, as you can see. I will turn her on. So turning it on is over here by the power switch. And I will just press that little button. And there it goes. This is the foot pedal right here, this cord. And then here is how I adjust it. When you turn it on, the light comes on and it automatically goes to stitch setting 1. And it starts out at center position and ready to go with the right stitch length and no stitch width. And that's, I think, a wonderful feature that Bernina has. Honestly, Bernina has always been so easy to use, and it was one of the biggest selling factors for me when I originally bought my machine 21 years ago. I'm going to go ahead and remove this plate because I don't need it on here while I'm showing you guys, but I want to kind of get to this bottom. Here's where you put your bobbin in. And I lost my bobbin thread earlier, so I'm just going to press the foot pedal once while holding my thread and get that thread out. Something's not going right. It's really tight in there. That's okay. I will just trim those on that thread cutter. This machine comes with 3 little handy thread cutters. This one on the side here is when you're sewing. You just slide the threads over after you pull your project out and trims it to a good length so that you're not going to lose it in the next time you start stitching. This threader here is for the thread cutter here is for when you put the bobbin in. If your thread tail is really long, you just cut it, close it up, it's out of the way. And then this thread cutter up here is for when you've wound a bobbin and you can just easily cut it. It's just right in here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's pretty handy. Like I said before, this machine doesn't have a lot of features. So here's the back stitching button, mirror stitching, and that is for when you access some of the more decorative stitches, which are on this plate here, and I will show you how to access those later. This is the speed stitch. This is the needle up or needle down. If I press this button, every single time my needle will stop in the down position. And if I want it to come back up, I'm going to use my hand cranker here to actually raise the needle, or I can always have it stop in the up position, which is honestly, they're both handy and they have different uses just depending on what you're sewing. This is the mirror image stitch, again for the decorative stitches if you want to actually flip a mirror image and so say an opposite side scallop or something. This one here is the stitch width. And we go from 0 up to 5.5. It'll show on my screen here. So if I turn my straight stitch and add width to it, it turns into a zigzag, which maybe doesn't seem as handy. But if I'm in a zigzag stitch, like stitch number 2, for example, and I just want a narrower zigzag or a wider zigzag, I adjust it that way. This is the needle position. I have 4 positions to the left, 4 positions to the right. And that's really handy for getting the right stitch length, maybe getting around something like your presser foot if you're stitching in a zipper, or maybe edge stitching. This is stitch length, and every stitch has a preset stitch length in it. And then this would adjust it from that stitch length if you want a shorter stitch length or if you want a longer stitch length. I often raise my straight stitch to 3 or 3.5 just because I like a little bit bigger stitch. I think it looks nicer. This is for if you want to program in the alphabets or perhaps some of the patterns, and say you want to do like, here's my patterns here. I want to do snowflake, and then I want to write a name like my daughter's name, Chloe, and then I want to end in another snowflake. I can program that in, and then I can tell my machine to stitch out one pattern of that. Here is how I access my standard stitches, and then this number button would allow me to say access that snowflake, which is number 30. So I would go number 30, and then I have number 30. It tells me it's stitch width 5, so I need to use presser foot number 1, so I have a wide opening, and then that's the stitch length that it's going to use. And that's where this button comes in handy. If I want to do just one snowflake, I would press that button. It's pretty cool. Everything else is pretty standard on the sewing machine. Like I said, it is the base model. There is not a lower Bernina model. There is the Bernette, which probably has less expensive, and maybe I would say probably less, not less features, but just less expensive parts. And maybe they're not completely backed by the name Bernina. I actually can't really speak to that, so I don't really know what I'm saying. But I do know this is the base model of Bernina. One thing that it's missing that I didn't realize was it's missing the freehand system here. I'll show you on this sewing machine over here. This is my daughter's sewing machine. This is a knee-activated pedal that raises and lowers the foot pedal. Really handy mid-project if you need two hands on your work here, like if you're quilting, or I mean honestly if you're just putting something up under the presser foot and you want to lower it with your knee, it's very handy. I'm a little disappointed this one doesn't have it. I did pop that button off because I wanted to see if the parts were in there. It just didn't come with the lever, but it doesn't have the parts, and that's okay. I can use my hand to raise and lower my presser foot. Anyway, I'm excited. I've used this machine 3 or 4 times. I sewed with it last night. I made a stocking for my daughter, and it turned out wonderful. It's easy to use, and I love it so far. This is the end of part 2, and please like and subscribe our videos, and I will share with you more Alaska life that we live up here. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.